Welcome to the HR Tech Spotlight Podcast. I'm Deanna Shimoda, CEO of Growth Mode Marketing. The HR technology market is crowded, and we know it can be hard to find the best software solutions for your business in the sea of sameness. On this podcast, we shine a spotlight on some of the best up-and-coming technology options out there. Check it out if you are interested in learning about new innovative solutions available in the market. And if you are with an HR tech company and interested in being considered for a guest spot, stay tuned for details at the end of the show. Hello, we're back for another installment of the HR Tech Spotlight. This time we are shining a spotlight on Revelio Labs, a workforce intelligence company that unifies and enriches a comprehensive set of public employment data to create a universal HR database. Revelio Labs' mission is to increase the sophistication of labor markets by providing clean and rich human capital data to empower businesses and investors. Here to talk about this platform is the company's CEO, Ben Zweig. Ben, welcome to the show.
Hey, happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
So tell us a little bit about your background in the HR tech space.
Yeah, sure. So I started my career as an academic labor economist. I was teaching, economics, statistics, and things like that at some of the universities in New York. I still do. I still teach a class in the future of work at the business school at New York University. So that's still kind of with me in a way. So kind of came at this from an academic perspective, but then, spent some time in finance doing quantitative research at a hedge fund, and then went to IBM, where I managed a team of that was doing workforce analytics. So that was kind of my first foray into HR and HR data, which was really interesting. And we were working on all sorts of really cool projects. But basically, while I was there, started realizing the limitations of how HR analyzes data today. And that was really that it was limited to what was internal to a company. So a lot of people analytics teams basically analyze their own internal HR database, which is great, super rich data, but it cannot be benchmarked against peer companies. So it thought, what if we could take this universal public employment information out there, bring it all into one place, and enable benchmarking in HR, which is not usually a big part of HR outside of comp. They do benchmarking, but people analytics, DEI, strategic workforce planning. I mean, none of these groups really do benchmarking at all.
Let's talk a little bit more about what Revelio Labs does. Can you provide an explanation for those who are new to the company and the brand on the solutions that you offer and the problems that you solve?
For sure. Yeah. So we the first step is we are collecting data. So there's a few families of data sources that are out there in the public domain. One is online profiles. You can picture an online repository of resumes. So in a resume, you have someone's set of positions, their start date, end date, company name, job title, maybe the bullet points of what they do, their list of skills. And in that, you can get a sense of, if you have all of those in the world, all of those in the public domain, you can get a sense for a given company, what's the headcount, what's the inflow, what's the outflow. And you can segment that by occupation, by seniority, geography, gender, ethnicity, education, skill, any segmentation. That's from profiles. You also get job postings, and job postings represent the demand for labor. And those could really be gathered either through company websites, like the career pages, or through job posting aggregators, sites like Indeed, ZipRecruiter, et cetera. So those are, that's the set of demand data. And then there's also data around sentiment. So, think like what people write when they say they are satisfied or dissatisfied with their job. Maybe an example of that could be a company like Glassdoor, Fishbowl, where people say, what do they like about their job? What do they not like about their job? And all that data is in the public domain. So we gather it, but of course it's very messy. So we'll go through a process of mapping the job titles to occupations and to seniority levels. We'll map the companies to, entity IDs and industries, and do all the enrichment and mapping and debiasing that's required to have a nice, neat data set that's trustworthy. So what we and then we basically sell that, to people who are looking for more information and intelligence. And we can deliver that, through a data feed or through APIs or through a dashboard. And the dashboard is much more, that's our most popular solution, because it doesn't require a team of data analysts and data scientists. So I think the goal of what we'd like to see in the world is a situation within HR that's more similar to finance. In finance, everyone's got their day job, and they've also got on the screen next to them, they've got a Bloomberg terminal, which is really, which is just used for data. So when they're going about their day job, they just, look to the right or look to the left, and they see all this good, clean, trustworthy data. And that helps them perform their job more effectively. And we'd like to see a future where HR operates in the same way, where you've got your day job, but you've also got the data right next to you that can empower decisions, support you in your day job. And that will, hopefully our goal is that really, advances the field of human resources, of anyone analyzing people. So that's
Ben,
that's what we're doing. Yeah.
Very cool. What would you say is a big challenge or problem that you see facing HR departments today that Revelio Labs solutions can help with?
Yeah, I think one is just sort of understanding where they're situated in the competitive landscape. So let's say you are doing a study on retention. You want to understand, who's leaving. Are they the employees you're okay with them leaving, or is that problematic? And you want to understand the root causes of attrition. So, if you're analyzing internal data, you might see an attrition rate of a key role of, let's say, 20%. Is that good? Is that bad? We don't really know. You can really only assess whether that's, relatively good or bad by analyzing peer companies. And then you can, once you have an understanding of whether, some metric is exceptionally good or exceptionally bad, then you can start diagnosing the root causes. So let's say there's a high attrition rate of key roles. Maybe that's an issue related to the types of employees that are being brought on. Maybe it's an issue related to performance management. Maybe it's related to promotions. Maybe it's related to culture. So, all these things can be addressed if you have the right data. So that's one kind of purpose. Another is actually just in the sourcing landscape. So forget about talent management. Maybe around talent acquisition, you want to understand where are the attractive pools of talent for your next key initiative. Where are there good ratios of supply and demand for certain key skills. All of those are things that can be accomplished if you have the right data.
So there are obviously a lot of data solutions out in the HR tech market. It's a very crowded space. What makes Revelio Labs different from the other solutions that are out there, and how are you unique compared to what some HR tech buyers may be evaluating as they're making a purchase decision?
Yeah, I would segment data solutions into two categories. There's solutions that make it easier to analyze internal data. And there are really, great companies that do that. There's Visier, there's Orgnostic, there's One Model, and that's really not what we do. So that's a side where they're sort of a dashboard to help companies navigate their own internal data. Then there's other companies that have been really categorized as labor market intelligence providers, and they're really in the business of analyzing external data. So we are in that category where we analyze external data. And if I think about companies in that space, I think of Lightcast, Talent Neuron, Drop, Horsefly. These are companies that analyze external markets. And I think what sets us apart in that space is that with all of those companies, the unit of analysis is really the market. They are analyzing markets. And for us, the unit of analysis is a company. We are analyzing companies. We are seeing how the workforce of companies compare to the workforce of other companies. And that, I think, is unique. So I think, I haven't seen another company that can tell you what the attrition rate of software engineers is for a company that they are not affiliated with. And that's something that we do very often. We do that all day. So I think that's just a sort of identity distinction. I think there's also cultural differences. I think we have come to this market really being sort of data science first, data engineering first. 95% of our team are hands-on keyboard writing code. I think that's a little different in the space. So we're really, I think, designed to be sort of the data infrastructure layer, but not really getting into the applications. Not really, we don't come with a prescriptive set of advice about here's how you should manage your workforce. We are going to say, manage the workforce the way you want to manage it, but whatever you do, you're going to need, clean, trustworthy data that's refreshed frequently, and a navigable dashboard and all that. So we're really doing the technical stuff as a first step, but leaving it in the hands of the users to figure out how to best apply that to manage their workforce.
What type of companies would you say are the perfect fit for your solution?
Can I say all companies? Yeah. Yeah, I think probably to begin with large companies, just because they have tended to be a little bit on the side of earlier adopters in terms of like technical sophistication for their HR departments. So I think what we're presenting is something unique. It's new. I think we're presenting a way to analyze HR data, a way to be data literate in the HR landscape that is holistic and takes the market into consideration, that takes, competitors into consideration. And that's a new approach. So I think those that are a little bit more at the cutting edge of what's possible have been the earlier adopters. But I also think there's a strong case to be made for the up and comers who maybe don't have a big budget for a people analytics team that can, that would like to take on some of those analyses just using what's publicly accessible.
What impact have you seen organizations that have worked with your company experience?
Yeah, I mean, I think very often we come across companies that have tried to do what we're doing in a very, very manual kind of way. One way to think about this is if you ask someone, how do you, like, let's say you come across a company, how do you understand that company? I think a very common answer that you'll get is that they try to use something like LinkedIn. They'll go to the LinkedIn company page and try to get a sense for the composition of that company using this tool like LinkedIn that was really never designed to be a research tool. And maybe they try collecting data from some other sources in a very like hacky manual way. So I think we've seen a lot of companies try to get a sense of their competitive landscape and build these battle cards, to understand how they're differentiated competitively. But they've done that in a way that is not necessarily so scalable, which makes sense. They don't have a huge team of engineers working on it. But I think when we come in, it's very, sometimes clients just breathe, take a breath of fresh air. They say like, oh my gosh, finally, I don't have to do this manually by myself. So I think one way to think about what we're enabling is just an easier life for people whose business it is to kind of understand their workforce dynamics and their peers.
What is the biggest hesitation that you tend to see companies have when they're implementing a solution like yours?
The biggest hesitation, it's a good question. I'd say, hmm, I'd say it's really around how do they know it's right? So I think coming in and saying like, oh, there's a lot of value to data. There's a lot of value to getting, good, accurate data. That I think is a very easy case. I think everyone sort of understands that. But I think at the end of the day, we're only as good as how much people trust the data. So prospects and clients have been burned before. I think they've sometimes had experience navigating solutions that have just not given them data that they really trust. So it's a really difficult, it's difficult to gain trust in an environment like this. I mean, we can do the hard work, we can work on the tough problems, and we can do the best we can. But still, there's very often not a great way to validate our findings because we don't really have a ground truth. There's a saying in data science that I like to quote a lot, that ground truth is a myth. As soon as you think you have it, you realize you don't really have it. So we, let's say we're estimating compensation for a given position. We don't know what a person actually makes. We don't have access to their payroll info. But we can estimate based on what we see on job postings, on Glassdoor reviews, not reviews, on Glassdoor, salaries, on immigration filings, on payroll aggregates. So we can get all these sources and estimate salary, and we feel like it's pretty close, it's pretty good. But is it exactly right? We don't know, and we don't have a way of validating that. So I think ultimately, like when we put data in front of someone, they come in with a very healthy dose of skepticism, and they say, okay, I've seen this before, but it takes a while to soften them up and get comfortable. And yeah, I mean, the business we're in is we're selling credibility as much as we're selling data. So I think we have to come in and explain how we do things and be credible and smart and sensible, and hope that people end up trusting us. So that's a tough business, but that's what we have to do. Yeah.
Of course, in the HR tech space, technologies are always evolving. Can you tell us a bit about your future vision for Revelio Labs?
Yeah. So part of what we're doing now is classifying data to taxonomies and removing biases to make it nice and neat. There are other taxonomies that we would like to build. So one area of improvement is we are in the process of building a taxonomy of activities. Now, I think there's been a lot of hype in recent years around skill-based workforce planning. And I think that's a laudable effort, but I'm personally a little skeptical that we can plan our workforce around skills without having a good sense of what work activities those skills unlock. Because ultimately, people do get hired into jobs, and a job is a bundle of activities. Simply put, that's all a job is. It's a set of activities that someone does. And people get hired to do a set of things. And the skills that someone has that sort of belong to a person, those can basically enable them to work on certain activities. So I think being able to link skills to jobs requires this taxonomy of activities that people do. And I think we haven't seen anyone with a taxonomy of activities that is adaptable to this sort of work. So we think that's very exciting and something that we're working on. Another thing that we're doing a lot of is job matching and candidate discovery. So that's very popular now among talent acquisition teams. So that's been really an interesting path for us in making this really seamless and easy. And then more longer term is we'd like to do more integration of internal first-party HR data with the external data. So that's something we'd like to move into at some point, hopefully sooner rather than later. But that's really when you have everything, when you can take their internal data, put it alongside the external data, and get sort of the best of both worlds there.
Excellent. We've covered a lot of great information today. What final thoughts do you want to leave the audience with, Ben?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I think, I guess I'll leave the audience with a sort of ambitious way to think about the profession. I think sometimes, I compare the HR field with the finance field. Having worked in finance, you can sort of see how sophisticated it is. And that really is the business of allocating capital. And the economy is made up of labor and capital. And the business of allocating labor is not as sophisticated as finance. But I really think it could be. And I think what's missing is a unified source of shared data that everyone can know and trust. So I'm optimistic that this field full of very, very talented people could really be propelled into the stratosphere if these people are given this tool, this set of trustworthy data that can basically make their jobs just a lot more impactful, more strategic, more sophisticated. So I think that's sort of a vision for the future, hopefully the not too distant future, that of where I think the field can go.
Where can our listeners go to learn more about Revelio Labs?
Sure. I mean, our website, reveliolabs.com, certainly LinkedIn, you can follow our page on LinkedIn or me personally, Ben Zweig, that's we certainly we share a lot of content on LinkedIn just about what we can see in the data. We publish a newsletter twice a week where we just show interesting nuggets of what's going on in the world and labor markets. So anyone interested in the space, I'd encourage you to follow our page or me and get access to that data.
Excellent. I'll be sure to put the links in the show notes. So Ben, thank you for joining me on this episode of the HR Tech Spotlight. It was great to have you.
Thank you for having me.
And for those listening, be sure to check out Revelio Labs to learn more about how the platform can help your organization.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the HR Tech Spotlight Podcast, where we showcase some of the best up-and-coming HR technology options in the market. If you are an HR tech company leader who would like to be considered for a guest spot on this program, please contact me via growthmodemarketing.com or reach out to me, Deanna Shimoda, on LinkedIn. And if you found this show informative, subscribe, connect with us on social media, and leave a review. This is Deanna with Growth Mode Marketing signing off. Thanks for listening. We hope you'll tune in again next time.